Hey, Jamie. Just waiting for Mike, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
Hey, Chris, when did you plan on going to that executive meeting? You want going to do that at the end?
It's preferred to do it at the end because
Okay.
we're live stream, so we don't want people who are joining us to join in or to chat or ask questions or anything like that. We don't want to hold them up, and then we our city staff as well. We'd like to get them answering questions and then allow them to have their time.
Okay, well, being 5 o'clock and everyone's present, I'd like to call the meeting of the March infrastructure meeting to order. At this time, I would entertain a motion to approve the minutes of the February 1st meeting.
I'll make that motion, Jeff.
Second.
All in favor?
All right.
Right.
Okay, minutes are approved. Now we'll move on to our second item, which is the update on Kogan Avenue project. And I believe that's all part of the project list discussion, so we could go right to that, I guess.
Yeah, we'll start with that. So where we stand with Kogan, we got a final design based on what the council agreed to last year. Everything that we settled on is included. We got the final engineer's estimate today or last Friday. And this is the engineer's estimate. This is based on unit prices. They use what they call the weighted averages. They take from typical projects and put it towards it. Does not mean that this is going to be the final price. So they're coming up with a price of $1.674 million. So $1,674,000. The construction management portion of it, we have two options there: a part-time and a full-time. The part-time, I believe, is in the neighborhood of $57,000, and the full-time is $160,000. And then we're looking at needing what they call a third-party stormwater consultant, which keeps track of it. They can't be done by the actual design engineer, and that's about a $20,000 bill, plus or minus. Well, probably minus. That's on the high end. What does this mean? Our capital budget, we had numbers of $700,000 in the road resurfacing and road building portion of it, and we had $275,000 in water funds. Obviously, that adds up to $975,000, puts us about $880,000 short. Again, the budget is just that; it's a guess. These were numbers that were generated long before Andrew and I were left with this. This has come from way back, and they're numbers that were moved forward. Options. There's not really one clear-cut item that we could cut out of this project that would make it more affordable. The only thing we're talking about is major reduction in scope, which would be actually eliminating a section, footage of road, complete road. You can't take sidewalk out of one side and say that, yeah, we're going to shorten that up. You're only looking at savings of probably about, $60,000. You can't get rid of the curbs. You can't get rid of the water line. We're with the Complete Streets program, particularly when we get down to Cornelius Street, we have to finish that crosswalk. Going across Cornelius Street, it's going to be a signalized crossing. So there's no one big item that sticks out. So that's where we stand with the overall pricing. The recommendation from Public Works is we put it out to bid. We're prepared to get it out, I believe, we want to do the 8th, Andrew?
Yeah, we'd put it out for the 8th with a letting or bid opening on the 30th of March.
And at which point in time, that will put us to our April meeting, right on time, which I think is a Thursday or the first Monday of the month, which would be the infrastructure meeting for us.
Be the
We can
fifth.
review the numbers and see what we want to do. Some options are, the original budget did not plan on us using any CHIPS money. This is eligible. We can use CHIPS money towards it for any of the hard surfacing and sub-base materials. So probably neighborhood of $300,000 of this potentially, maybe a little bit more. What we are waiting on right now, we spoke to DOT today, and the CHIP person is April, the beginning of April, we should have a much better idea about what we're gonna have for CHIPS money, if anything. Most likely the worst case is our standard allotment, which is around 550 to 600,000 less 20%. And then best case scenarios are talking about 115% of that 600 or 550 to 600 because they shorted us this year. So that's one option for money. That could help a little bit with this. Like I said, we need to see what we have for prices first before making decisions. Questions?
This will give us an actual idea of what somebody might do the project for. These bids?
Yes. Correct, sir.
Okay.
Any other counselor questions on this particular project? This is, like I said, this is a substantial project. To give you a feel for it, we did Main Road, and this was 4 years ago. And I think we closed the project out at about $1.7, $1.8 million. It was a little bit a longer stretch, but we're talking prices from 4 years ago when we did this project. So kind of to give you an overall feel, similar scope, obviously a different type of terrain, a little bit different, obviously location, which always plays a part in it for traffic control pricing and what have you. But, again, 1,700 feet of pipe, curb, sidewalk, full depth road reconstruction, water line services, stormwater upgrades, the whole kit and caboodle.
I can see why this was put off for so many years.
Correct, sir. So if we're good with that, we'll move right down the list here. I don't know, did you guys all receive the list that Beth had gotten and moved forward to you so we can follow along together with the 2021 project status report?
I have it. Mike and Jamie, do you also have that?
Yes.
Okay, well, let's move to the Psap grant. I'm going to mute myself, and Andrew will be update on that one.
All right, guys. So for the Psap grant, we were able to start the reimbursement process for the design phase of the project, which is $70,000. So I've submitted all the paperwork to DOT to get reimbursements for the design. We are actually going to put it out to bid tomorrow with a bid opening date of the 23rd, at which point we can, on the 1st or on the 5th again at our next infrastructure meeting, we'll award that bid to the company that we choose. So they'll start construction here in probably middle of April to end of April. Get that project all completed.
Very good. Anyone have any questions? Okay, continue.
Okay, moving on, 2020-21 road resurfacing. Obviously, we approved at the last meeting our mill and pave projects. It's a shorter list. Until we know what we have for CHIPS money, we're working with what we call rollover money from previous year. But what we'll do is we'll go out and do the final estimates. We do budget estimates. These are a lot tighter estimates than what we had done or we could do for a full depth reconstruction. We actually went out and measured it, but we're going to confirm our measurements tighten up the prices with new county contract rates and get that prepared. Sidewalk replacement program. Again, I'm going to turn you over to Andrew and let him fill you in on what we're doing here.
So this is, we put $50,000 in the capital plan this year to redo chunks of sidewalks. So we're actually looking at every year continuing to put money into the capital plan so that every year we can replace a bad section of sidewalk. Our guys are actually, our forms really, we don't have a lot to do mass sidewalks, so we can hire a third party to come in and do sidewalk. So we've gone out to some design engineers to get some pricing to design some bid spec, so we can it's just a standardized spec how we want the sidewalk built. So every year when we do one of these projects, we can just hand over the specifications to the contractor and say, this is the section of sidewalk that we want done. These are the specs that you have to build it to. So we're getting pricing on that from some design engineers to do that.
Thank you, Andrew.
Okay, moving on, the Riverrun Sewers slip lining. What we'll be doing as soon as we get some decent weather. This is a section of sewer line that runs along the river. That's why we call it the river run, obviously. We have a lot of root issues in it. The pipe is pretty decent shape, but it's a good candidate for potential slip lining. We'll go ahead and do our routine root cutting. We'll do a camera assessment, and then we're going to consult with a slip lining contractor that is on state contract that we can hire and get some pricing as to doing this. And this will be the first time that we've done this that I know of in the city. Well, I shouldn't say that. John did the bridge under the, yes, smile, John. Did the bridge under the river there, or over the river, I should say, with the down by the plant, the little green bridge. But this would be a good thing to do, and I want to see if this is something we can continue moving forward. It's a lot more cost effective than doing full pipe replacement, and gives us a viable product. Cornelius Street, we do have dual sewer lines that run down Cornelius Street or Restaurant Alley. Much the same. We have one that's in very good shape, one is in not so good a shape. We want to do an assessment of that sewer and see if it would be feasible to do that in the future. Riley Ave water line extension, we're pretty close to having that together to put out to bid. It's not a very big project. Again, it's a water job, and then we're going to finish it up with do a mill and overlay on that section of road. It's really just a small section. DPW boiler replacement. Why this one's not glamorous, this is important. We talked about it previously. This is a heating systems in our building. Both of our heat plants are failing. They'll get us through the winter, but I don't hold much hope in them wanting to not leak come next fall. So we are in the process. We reached out to a consulting engineer, went over what we're looking for design. This is not a complete overhaul. This is only the heat plant itself, which would be the boilers and accessories. And this would be for our main building and for the HEO building. On to the second page, hydrant flushing and flow testing, which Don will probably talk a little bit later because there were some concerns about water odor, but this is a program that we were going to do last fall. Flushing and also flow testing in conjunction with that. It's something that should be done on a more frequent basis, both flushing and the flow testing. We have the tools. We're going to put the people together and get it done. Beekman Street, Maryland Road, South Peru Street are three projects that we are in the preliminary stages of reaching out to consulting engineers, getting some design prices. These are all stuff we need to start talking about now and getting ahead of it. Wilcox Dock Phase 2. We're going to put something together here shortly. Reach out to the Canal Corporation. We have some docks left still from the GE monies that we were lent or given. We can put more slips over there at Wilcox, and we're going to see if they're going to allow us to do that. Bridge New York, I'm going to let Andrew explain what that's all about.
So Bridge New York is a grant program through the state where they give monies to 95% state, 5% local match for bridge rehabilitation or replacement. We have 3 bridges that we think that qualify. One big one, the Smithweed Bridge downtown. So we have reached out to consultants on the LDSA list to see if they're interested in putting together a package for us to submit to the state. They have to reply by the 5th of March, and then we'll select a candidate to fill out the application, go through the application process with the state to see if we can get a grant to rehab a few of those bridges.
That's good. So these we would be able to get some funding perhaps through grants?
Yeah, so this is a grant opportunity for the state to pay us up to 95% of construction and design costs for bridge rehabilitation.
Good.
What they do is they encourage us to basically apply for anything we even think we remotely qualify for. Of our bridges, the one that probably stands the best chance is the Cumberland Ave Bridge. The approaches, the bridge deck, obviously guys have seen the sidewalk and curb, it's coming apart on us. Those are the aesthetic portions, I should say, that are pretty rough shape. The abutments and bearings, what holds the bridge up, are in decent shape, but they could use some work. Our bridges are safe. They're not unsafe by any means. But though that bridge in particular would be a great candidate, and it's obviously at 95%. Bridges aren't cheap. So this is something we need to, again, get ahead of now. It's out there. I don't believe we've ever done this before, so this is new for us as far as going for this type of grant. So it's a good thing. Moving on, LSLR, which is Lead Service Line Replacement Grant. John and his people are working on that, and we're identifying, basically this is any service lines to houses that contain lead. We don't have any lead pipe in our system that we know of. What we do have is what they call lead goosenecks, is the connection from a service line to the main, and that constitutes us being able to use this grant money. And they're localized in certain areas, and we're hoping to start eliminating from our system here. The other project we're looking at is truck tracking. This is, again, one of these long range ones where it can help out with both productivity and basically safety throughout the city. But for our snowplow trucks and our garbage and recycling trucks, and to optimize what we're doing. The mayor knows firsthand. He went for a little ride, and how in the middle of a snowstorm it can be disorienting at best, trying to figure out what you've plowed, how long ago did you plow it, these type of things. The technologies exist, and I think it would benefit us greatly, and we should at least start doing the research into it and see what it would cost us, and if it's right for us. Moving on, the next item is the city beach. The mayor has spoken with us, and he's outlined some priorities and some wishes and which need to be done. Number one is the city bathhouse, which is the one on the south end, not the north end, but the south end. We're going to rehab that, go through, make sure all the plumbing is operational, probably give it a paint job, go through it, good cleaning, get it ready for the next season. Parking lot work, get a good look at the boardwalk and see what we got going on there. We'll have to remove a lot of blow sand, try to figure out if it's repairable, if we want to go in a different direction on the boardwalk. The Anderson building, which is a building directly behind the crate, with we had a tree fall on it and broken trusses. We're investigating pricing into demoing and removing that building. It's never been used since I've been here. It's out there, and it's, like I said, it's now you have a roof that's compromised. Boardwalk railings is something the mayor and I are kind of working on, trying to find something that's a little more aesthetically appealing and a little more actually functional. But we'll keep working towards that and trying to come up with something. Beach trails. I know the mayor, I missed out on that meeting. I was in a separate meeting, but you met with SUNY Plattsburgh. I believe it's the old Rock Eater trails they were interested in, and maybe reestablishing those, and we would work with them on it. Did I miss anything on that, Mayor?
No, that was the long and short of it. For the Anderson building, we are looking at keeping the electric route and the concrete pad there in hopes that we can attract some events there over the summer, whether it be food truck events, the beach opening. We have a number of partnered events with the Chamber of Commerce out there, and I know sometimes we have a volleyball tournament out there as well. So we're trying to set ourselves up for a little bit more activity on the beach. And I know the Mayor's Cup group wants to do some work, wants to host some events out at the beach as well. So trying to just set ourselves up to have a nice beach opening and have some facilities out there that we can all use.
On the last page, if whoever has the outline there, we've got several items. Obviously, the Green Street redesign, downtown, the DRI, City Hall window project, traffic zone designation. These are all community development projects where we'll have either DPW will have some or no involvement in, but we put them down. We like to have them there because obviously we're support staff. But those are things that will be going on. Some are going to be a little bit longer out there than others, but I know we'll probably see some of them happen this summer. Saranac River Trail Phase 2, that's a big project. And I think, Matt might talk a little bit about it, but they're going to be putting in some bridges this summer. It'll be an impressive thing as it goes. And then the last one we put down there, and this is one that I know that the mayor has spoken to me when he first got into office, and it's something we need to talk about now, not during spring cleanup and definitely not in the fall, is yard waste and leaves and our policy on collection and also what we use. I know that people are going away from plastic and going to the paper bags, I believe would be a good thing for the city. It would save us a lot of work on our end. But we're gonna start talking about it this week and try to get, brainstorm and come up with some ideas.
Well, great. That's a very comprehensive and extensive list. I'm glad to see a proactive approach to all these projects. Thanks a lot, and thanks for the great report.
May I ask a question, Jeff?
Sure.
This is for Mike and Andrew. You were talking about the bridge improvement projects. You mentioned that there are 3 bridges in question. What are the other 2?
The 2 that we have some defects in, and I don't believe we're going to qualify, but we're going to throw them on there anyway. The big one, South Catherine Street Bridge. We have the bridge expansion, which bridges move in the deck, and the bridge expansion on the south end is starting to peel out. Now that's something that we don't have the skill in house to repair, but maybe we qualify for the grant, and maybe they can, by that time there are other defects and bridge, mostly deck defects. When I talk about the deck, it'd be the driving surface. That maybe they could put a new deck on it. That would be a nice one. The other one is the Bridge Street Bridge, and I believe there's some masonry work on that. But it doesn't hurt. They said that put down anything you possibly could think of, because you never know, you could get lucky and get one.
Thanks, Mike.
One other quick update, I guess, why I got you before we turn you over to John. As you know, we've had a pretty rough winter when it comes to water leaks. Andrew pulled out the break history for this year. We have 10 so far this year since January 11th. We've had on Prospect alone, 4 on Prospect, 2 on Champlain Street, and then some other, 1 on Pine, 1 on Bridge, a valve packing replacement on Ridgewood. What does this mean? I know I talked at length with the mayor about these things because no one likes to see these water main breaks and wants to know what's causing them. The biggest thing is frost penetration. If we're going to try to link it to something, but and the other question is why a certain location. I think 2 years ago, last year or the year before that, we had a problem on South Peru Street where we had break after break, and we had some constituents that weren't very happy. Depending on how the pipe was installed, depending on the vintage of the pipe, how old it is, depending on, and then this is the biggest one, the environmental conditions, which this year we had some good cold weather. We got frost to drive, and we had some ground movement. The breaks we're seeing are shear breaks. This is what causes that. Why it's happening in certain locations, I can't explain that. But what we have to do is just address them as quickly and as efficiently as possible. The last time I had a break on Prospect was probably my first year working for the city. On my second day here, we had one. So that tells you how long it's been. So I don't have a definitive answer. I can't say that this pipe is just wore out, because the Prospect pipe, to look at it, and we've dug it up 5 times, looks great. But every time you dig it up, there's a big rock laying on top of it, and you have a big rock laying on the pipe, and you have frost moving around, it breaks the pipe. So, and the pipe is 1972, which is really not that old. And that's all I've got, unless any of the councilors or mayor have any questions for me.
Well, if not, we'll move on to number 3, environmental.
Okay, so 3.1's an update on the wells out at Mead Reservoir. There's a number of test wells that have been drilled out there, and previously one of those wells was identified as the one that looked the most promising for development into a production well. There were a couple little concerns with it, water quality wise. There's some sand and turbidity in it. So we did some extra pumping and development of it, and all that cleared up. Water quality is looking good. So the plan is to include, it's called Test Well 4A, as part of the well field for movement into development as production wells. In addition to a number of wells that have been drilled, we're getting ready to drill one more. It's called Test Well 6A, and the well driller is expected to be starting that either later this week or early next week. CDM Smith's in the process of designing a new transmission line that's going to run from the existing transmission lines at Meade Dam up past this Test Well 6A that's going to be installed this week to Test Well 4A. Once we're ready to move 4A into production, it'll be a combination of turning that into a production well, constructing a new transmission line up to it, along with the requisite power supply that's going to be needed. And if Test Well 6A looks to be good, it'll be right off the new transmission line, so we can tie that one in pretty easily. The cost estimate for the production wells, the new transmission line, and the power supply plus the tie-ins it's about $5 million. We're expecting 60% of that to be covered by WIA grant, the Water Infrastructure Improvement Act. We had applied for $20 million worth of water work through the Water WIA program. We got the grant, but they had a limit on how much you can get. It was $3 million in grant money every 5 years. But they just changed that last year, so you can get $3 million every year. So we took our $20 million project, and we're in the process of breaking it into 4 phases. each one of which will be $5 million. And then we're hoping we can get $3 million grants for each one of those 4 phases. So again, this initial phase, which includes hopefully 2 production wells, transmission line, power supply, it's got an estimated cost of about $5 million, and we're expecting $3 million of that to be grant funded. On the wastewater side, which Environmental Facilities Corporation, or EFC, refers to as clean water, we're working on a revised engineering report to hopefully qualify some additional projects for money there. You might recall a couple of years ago, we were awarded, I think it's almost $5 million in grant money from EFC for the wastewater side, and up to $20 million in 0% interest loans for the balance of the projects. So we're working on those. We're waiting for some new rounds of WIA grant applications to open up so we can submit our grants and hopefully be first in line. So any questions on the Mead Reservoir or the WIA funding associated with it?
I just had one question, John.
Sure.
Is the goal at some point to have sufficient source wells to provide all the water that we possibly would need?
The way we're framing it right now, Jeff, is we want to have sufficient well water to supplement or replace the Mead Reservoir as a source. That dam and spillway need 10, 12, maybe $15 million worth of improvements. So we're putting these wells in so that we don't have to spend that much money on those improvements. If these wells pan out the way they look, it looks like the wells themselves will have enough to meet our entire average daily demand and maybe even the max daily demand. That puts us in position of just relying on the wells and keeping the Westbrook Reservoir system as a backup and the Saranac River as a second backup. It also put us in position to blend well water with surface water if we find it's to our advantage for treatment reasons or capacity reasons. So to answer your question, we're hoping that, yeah, we'll replace or be able to meet our capacity needs as they stand now. But it also adds a lot of redundancy, resiliency, helps us avoid a lot of capital costs that we're presently confronted with, and it's going to give us a lot of flexibility down the road.
Hey, thanks, John. I explained it very well.
Thanks. The next item is 3.2. So update on the effectiveness of the new water rates, or I think in particular the infrastructure demand charge that was created last year. Last year, that demand charge was only being assessed for about half the year, and roughly $300,000 was generated in revenue. So with a full year of receiving that revenue this year, we should garner somewhere in the neighborhood of $600,000, which is pretty much in line with what we'd estimated. What that's done is it takes what was historically a $200,000 a year deficit, plus or minus, it varied from year to year. It eliminates that deficit and provides some additional revenue to build the cash reserves in the capital reserve and the debt fund reserves, and to also build a fund balance.
Anyone else have any questions on that? If not, we can proceed.
Okay, 3.3 is a discussion of primary clarifier upgrades. Primary clarifier is the first tank that the wastewater comes into, where the bulk of the solids will settle out. We have 2 of those primary clarifiers in various states of deterioration. So we're in the process of repairing all the concrete and replacing a lot of the steel that holds rotating assemblies that move sludge around and push it into a suction well. That project is probably about 75% complete. It's been on hold since winter started, and once the weather breaks, they'll be finishing that up. So probably by the end of June or so, that clarifier work should be complete and online. That construction work was also done as part of the dewatering project, dewatering improvements upgrades. You've heard me talk about those, are the belt filter presses. Both belt filter presses are installed. They're started up. They're running really, really well. And the contractor's pretty much at substantial completion there and working through a number of punch list items. Both the clarifier project and the dewatering project have WIA funding, 25% grant, with the bulk of it funded by the 0% 30-year loans. Any questions on those? Okay, 3.4 is an update on the mitigation projects at the wastewater plants. First mitigation project was the dewatering and primary clarifier upgrades, which are almost done. Another mitigation project is a new disinfection building. Right now, we pump the sodium hypochlorite for disinfection of the effluent from the south end of the plant all the way up to the north end of the plant. And we also have to dechlorinate it. That dechlorinating agent, which is called sodium thiosulfate, is also pumped from the south end of the plant all the way to the north end of the plant. So we've designed a new disinfection building with state-of-the-art secondary containment to relocate the sodium hypochlorite and the sodium thiosulfate, and to relocate the present discharge areas for most of the bulk chemicals that we receive and for the liquid hauled waste that we receive, to get those off the south side of the plant, which is closer to the waterfront and the recreational areas. That design is just about complete, and we're hoping within the next 2 weeks to put that project out for bids, with receiving bids sometime mid-end of April, so we can get into construction this construction season. We still got a few things we got to work through with DEC and the grant funding agents on that. Got a conference call about that tomorrow, but I'm not expecting any difficulties resolving those issues. Odor control upgrade is also part of that project, which is going to be covering the influent channels. It's going to be covering our bar screen areas, our aerated grit tanks, and our wet well, which are areas where we get a fair amount of odor that emanate from. Those are going to be covered so that odor is contained. We're going to be putting in new ductwork so that that odor is going to be conveyed to the existing scrubbing system for treatment. So what that means is areas that previously were open to the atmosphere and could release odors are now going to be contained, conveyed, and scrubbed before discharged. And one of the other big components of the mitigation is the aesthetic mitigation, or the architectural upgrades. Some of you have probably seen some artist renderings of the south side of the plant and how fabulous it could look. And it can look fabulous. So we haven't just made a final decision on what the theme should be, because the grand part of the project is going to be the new entryway on the west side of the plant. We're expecting to enclose our present entryway courtyard to make a grand entrance that's very inviting and makes a statement about what an environmental asset the facility is. But it's also going to provide space for interpretive center exhibits on the water cycle and what we as humans do to pollute water and turn it into wastewater, and then what all the folks at the wastewater plant have to do in order to clean it up. That right now is in development. A couple different themes and concepts are being developed by our architect, and we're hoping within the next 4 to 6 weeks to have some spiffy drawings for y'all to look at and see if you like them, or see if you've got some other ideas about things we might want to pursue.
Yeah, those artist renderings are pretty exciting.
Yeah, they're neat. It drives our engineers crazy because they like to say, hey, we need to build something that's functional. We'll worry about how it looks later. On this project, I'm telling them, no, we're going to start with how it looks. Then you're going to figure out how to make it work. So it was blowing their mind for quite a while, but they've come around and are doing a great job. So any question on those mitigation projects?
No, I think those are gonna be a great help to our harborside property.
Yeah, it really is. Oh, and I should mention that we're also working with the farmers market folks on how we can work collaboratively with, what their mission is and what they're doing, and with what our mission is and what we're doing. We're going to be very close neighbors. So we're trying to figure out how we can not only coexist, but how to build off what each other does to make it better for both of us. So.
Thanks, John. Was there any questions from any of the other counselors? Well, if not, we can proceed with, we have two resolutions to be brought forward for the next regular meeting. The first resolution is the liquid ammonium sulfate contract. I'd like to make a motion to move that to the regular meeting. Not very exciting, but necessary.
A motion.
Second? Okay, well, Jamie made a motion, second. Counselor Kelly, is there any discussion? If not, all in favor of moving that resolution to the regular agenda, say aye. Aye.
Aye.
All right, the other resolution we have is for laboratory services, contract extension. I'm assuming everybody has read these. It's not another very exciting one, but it's with Andine and ALS Environmental to do our testing for us. So I would entertain a motion to move that to the regular agenda also.
I'll move that, Jeff.
Counselor Kelly,
I'll second.
second by Counselor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion is carried. And at this time, I would entertain any new business that the committee may have.
Chairman Moore, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive session to discuss pending litigation with the town of Plattsburgh.
Okay, is there a second? Second by Counselor Canales. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, we will adjourn to executive meeting. And we will come back in session to end our meeting. Okay, we're back from executive session, and I guess we just need to finish up with it. Was there any additional new business?
I had some new business that I wanted to discuss, Council.
Sorry, just a point of order here. We need to come out of executive session with no
Oh, no action was taken.
no action coming out of executive session. I'll make a motion to end executive session.
A second by Councilor Canales. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Okay, back to new business. Was there any additional new business? I think
Residents from every single ward has brought up, and it's regarding city, what is it, Club Road and Hamilton Drive, the intersection there. What can we do to get that atrocity fixed? I mean, I don't know how else to say it. It is such a nightmare. You know, there's probably an accident there. I literally did count this past weekend on Saturday. There was probably about 15 different accidents on Saturday in that intersection. So I just would like us to come to a resolution to see if we can get this back on with the city architect for us to do something better and beneficial for a proper flow of traffic there. And also wanted to see what we can do about getting the spigot rerouted on the oval for the spigot. What is it, for the rink, for the ice rink right next to the gazebo? If we can get the spigot rerouted from across the street to right next to
Hannaford Rink.
Yeah,
Hannaford Rink.
yeah. That's continually I'm being asked about that.
No, I've heard, honestly, I've heard one person ask about it as well, and I've seen it. We're a little late in the season, to be honest, to fill it at this point. But I think maybe we take a look at next year and figure out a solution for it. And part of it is this year, especially, it's been I don't want to say mild, but the weather didn't get cold until super late in the season, and then it was a pretty short. In terms of how cold it was pretty short. But I think we can work, Mike. I'm going to volunteer you for another 2020. It'll be 2022 this time. So,
Yeah, I mean, getting the water across is the easy part. It's the making the ice. It's very labor intensive. The ice we did make this year, the quality wasn't great. We just don't have staffing, to be quite honest with you, Counselor, to sit with it full time. We did bring back our fields person who takes care of that, but there's a lot to it. And we have 2 rinks currently. We're trying to keep something going. Again, like Mayor Rosenquist said, it's been a less than ideal season, and also takes a lot of labor. But we can definitely get water there and set it up. I think we just got to pick and choose our season and how we go about it.
No, I understand.
As far as Club Road and Hamilton Street, I don't like that any more than you do, and that's not of our doing over here at Public Works. Someone else did that.
That was actually designed purposely that way by the previous city engineer. They were having some issues with traffic just shooting up off of Hamilton onto Club Road. So apparently the answer to fix that was to narrow the roadway so cars couldn't turn onto the road when there was another car there. It's hard enough with a regular car or a truck to make that turn. Now imagine trying to do it in a plow truck when there's somebody sitting there. So we've had a lot of issues with that intersection as well since it's been redesigned.
But we can definitely talk to an engineer and look at it.
Yeah, I'd like to see what we can do about getting that, taken care of and bring it to the floor of the council to see what money and funds can be allocated to get that done, like sooner than later. It's not good.
I wonder on the ice rinks if you could set up a volunteer program like we have for Little League Baseball. That seems to be working out pretty good. If you found the right volunteer, who was really interested in making a nice surface for skating and hockey, it may work.
I agree with you on that 100%. You took the words right out of my mouth, Mike. That's exactly right.
Okay. What does their public works team think about that? Is that something that might be done?
Much like people who volunteer to take care of gardens for the city or, anything else, the interest is always there in the beginning, what I've historically seen, and then they grow tired of it. They might have some people that come help them, which is great. And they say, God, this, it's cold and I don't want to do this. And I hate to be, kibosh to this, but volunteer groups come and go. That's why, to be honest with you, I didn't realize we had this many rinks. I mean, again, we had a recreation department. I'm not the recreation superintendent. I'm just the superintendent of public works who happened to inherit some stuff. I knew about the one at Fox Hill, and I knew about the one up at Melissa Penfield. I guess not Melissa Penfield, but Lumet Park. But I guess Melissa Penfield had a rink at one time, and then obviously the one over at the Oval. But volunteer groups, it'd be nice if we can find the right people, but the consistency of the product we'd struggle with, I think.
I volunteer. Teach me how to do it.
I'll
take care of the one on the Oval. I volunteer.
The other thing we got to look at is because we do have union staff who have done that job over so many years. We have to look into the contract to make sure that it's not taking away work from a union member, because that is a grievable.
Although we're fully staffed, so I don't think that would be an issue there. But yeah, we can definitely look at in the future as we roll around the next winter. We'll definitely talk about it. And as far as getting water over there, it's not that hard to get water across the street, and a hydrant over there.
Okay, were there any other comments? Yes,
Under new business, Councillor Moore, I'm sorry that I forgot to ask Mr. Ruff to give us an update on the water concerns that we have heard about over the last couple of weeks. If you wouldn't mind just giving us an update on that.
Sure. We're still chasing it. It doesn't seem to be as bad as it was, but there are still at least several people who have had odors that still had odors. So it still seems to persist in some areas. The water is fit for use and for consumption, so we're confident about that. It's a two-pronged approach to trying to get some more relief. One is when the weather breaks to do some distribution system flushing. Next week's looking like it might provide some opportunity to do that. Mike Bissett and I are talking about how to pull together a plan between his staff and my staff to attack that in the most efficient way as possible without causing other issues like frozen roads or portions of the system that have been flushed and stirs up water in other areas. And anytime you flush, especially this time of year, you're just begging for water main breaks too. So it's a balancing act there. On the treatment side, we are working on getting new activated carbon for our filters. It might be that as that carbon we have starts to get depleted with some changes in the reservoir water, they might be getting overloaded now. That's not entirely clear whether that's happening or not. We've done some initial testing that has given us some information, but some of it's a little confusing too. So we're going to be doing another intensive round of sampling tomorrow on the raw water side, treatment plant side, and out in the distribution to see if we can, through some different test parameters, shed some more light on that. And we're also working closely with our engineers and with the lab itself on how to narrow down the possible causes. So this is one of those situations that taste and odors, a lot of times they come, they go. You're never really sure what it was, but it's gone. This one's persisting. I'm not sure who's more frustrated, our staff or the people who have had the impacts. But we are working hard on it, trying to figure it out, both in the short term and then in the long term to make sure we don't have it again.
Okay, very good. That answer your question, Mayor?
Yeah, thank you.
Very good. I guess this time, Ethan, is there any public comment?
No, there is none.
Okay, that being said, I would entertain a motion to adjourn. Counselor Canales, second. Counselor Kelly, all in favor?
Aye.
All
Aye. Thank you all.
right, thanks.